The ego will do anything that it could do to survive. The ego is essentially a program that the mind writes that creates an identity and presents a persona to the world. The ego is the base program, and the identity is what's created from the program. Meaning the identity isn't real because the ego is not real. The ego is evolved. It's evolved as a means of our survival, of humanity's survival from early on. It instills in us a level of competition and a level of us needing to do better than the next person, hence the term survival of the fittest. The ego is what creates that need to be better than someone else. And the identity that the ego creates is often what's responsible for the negative feelings. It's what's usually responsible for being sad. It's what's usually responsible for depression. It's what's usually responsible for anger. Every negative emotion that you feel is a product of the ego. Jealousy, insecurity, fear, anger. These are all products of the ego. Insecurity is feeling inadequate based on the identity that the ego has created. And when you're able to realize that the ego is not real, the identity that it's created is not real, you'll realize that the insecurity is also not real. But as you start to transcend the ego and transcend self, the ego senses its demise. And this is experienced through some long periods of meditation, people that do dark therapy, people that go on these long treks, like where they go into the desert for a week or 2 weeks. It's most prevalent, the ego death is most prevalent during psychedelics. When the ego starts to dissolve, that is where the shit hits the fan in the psychedelic journey. When the ego starts to dissolve, the false self, the identity, gets a sense that it starts to disappear. I also believe that once you start to transcend self, and once you start to elevate and start living more in alignment with your higher self, and the ego starts to realize its demise, that's when it comes back fighting full force. Usually it'll take something as its kind of its last fight and hold on to it. Pushing the identity, pushing that persona, pushing your insecurities, your jealousy, your fear to the max. And it's important then to realize that none of that is really real.